Output-driven leadership, the second part. In the first video on output-driven leadership, we were introduced to the plan, do, check, act methodology, which I represented it in steer, execute, coach, and optimize. And we looked already at a couple of steps of that first position, the steer position. Like developing a common vision, like building the corporate culture, like not forgetting values and ethics. And we also talked about giving direction. In this video, we add a few more steps to this first position, steer position, focusing on trust-based management so that we do not fall into micromanagement. A first very important next step is to think about establishing team norms. A new reality requires new agreements, and you make those new agreements together. We go from vertical to horizontal leadership. Standards set clear expectations for how you will work with your team so that everyone is on the same wavelength and aligned about how we will work together and ultimately avoid miscommunication and frustration. They are also a great stepping stone to building a corporate culture, yet they are often used implicitly rather than made explicit, creating opportunities for confusion. Discuss team norms with colleagues. This could include expectations around how we communicate with each other, about how long it should take to respond to emails, clarifying task expectations and ownership within a team, when in most cases employees can solve problems immediately without going to the manager first, because then you save valuable time. The best way to share information needs to be agreed upon, how often you should have contact, the broad vision that helps the team focus on the larger goal, how we will keep each other informed about what each one of us is doing. Should everyone have the same working hours? How do we indicate that we are working or not working? What is the added value of a strict hierarchy? Well, these are just some of the questions that need to be answered. You will find some examples of team charters and agreements in a separate document, because in leadership coaching and workshops, this is usually something that we work upon. Stopping to consider team norms is also an excellent moment to throw old habits overboard, business unit or department, and install best practices. Once you've established these standards, the most important thing is to put them in writing and distribute them to everyone on the team. We need a team charter that motivates people and that causes little tension. This is how you get everyone on the same page, reduce stress and avoid wasting time. For example, because people are waiting for each other's messages. The timing is also important. If you do not set the expectations right, you will never get the work you expect. But if you focus too much on the same results, there is not enough room for employees to make their own work of it. You have to be authoritarian about the criteria, but then accept that the employees' solutions are all right. So there you need to let go. There are many roads to Rome, aren't there? How do I know that my employee is productive when working remotely? This is the question that I get the most in leadership workshops on remote working. I could tell them to install a camera that registers every moment or every movement of the employee in combination with a screen monitoring tool that takes screenshots of their laptop every 5 minutes. But would you want to work like that? No, I don't think so, and neither would I. So we also, I think your employees are creative enough to immediately start thinking of ways to beat that tool. So no, we don't want that. So don't create extra control rules, but steer based on trust, installing agreements. So lead by expectations. Not for nothing, the first building block of Patrick Lencioni's pyramid for well-functioning teams. Moreover, daring to give trust is a signal of good leadership, and that is nothing new. But how can I trust them if I don't know what they do all day? For some managers, trusting their employees is difficult. Don't feel bad if you find this difficult. Trust is a very slow process. It comes on foot, as they say, and it goes very quickly out of the door. Time will tell if someone can be trusted by his actions, his commitment, his loyalty, his results. Remember that physical presence used to be no guarantee of productivity either. Just because I look at my computer doesn't mean I'm working. Maybe I'm daydreaming. We actually see that people who work from home do more because they feel responsible, they enjoy the work and want to prove themselves. Employee trust usually has more to do with you as a leader than with your team and especially with your management. Do you have a team agreement on how you will work together? What processes have you put in place and documented to show progress? How often do you communicate on an individual and team level? Are you delegating enough goals or micromanaging tasks? Have confidence that someone is capable of finding a solution themselves. If the employee has questions, you are there. It's about supporting employees. Now that employees are no longer always physically present, it is more difficult to manage them constantly. In addition, employees need to understand that they have other things on their mind because we can't immediately see the reality of my remote employee. Has he slept badly? Does he have a cold? Does he have a sick child at home, etc.? But if you're not clear about what you can or cannot do, you will be disappointed. Simply saying that a certain number of tasks must be completed by the end of the week does not always produce the result that you would like. After all, does an employee have to be present at a certain time, or can he allocate the time himself? What exactly is the task that needs to be solved? The answer to such questions must be clear beforehand. Managers who are sometimes chosen on the basis of their content or technical insight generally have more difficulty with output management. Why? Because it is precisely the content that you have to let go of. At a distance, the task of a manager is to connect people, to build a real relationship with your employees. You are the connecting force between your company, your organization, and the employee. Research by the American Paul Zak, founder of the Center for Neuroeconomic Studies at Claremont Great University, shows that trust is also important for other things in the workplace. Employees are more productive, have more energy, work better together, and stay longer at the same company. There is less chronic stress, and they are happier than people who are less trusted in the workplace. Trust, or rather the lack of it, is one of the reasons why working from home was sometimes difficult in the past. After all, what if your employees at home suddenly become involved in other things than work? Well, studies that measure the productivity of a remote worker show the opposite. Productivity increases. Employees really aren't going to spend all day watching Netflix or hanging out the laundry. Output-driven teams have a positive effect on results. The chief operating officer of Punch Powertrain, for example, said that as a result, the output per employee has doubled and absenteeism has fallen. The cost in the production process has decreased due to the increased flexibility and the faster response. The range of tasks also makes a difference. Jobs where routine work is high, such as call centers, have more of a tendency for managers to check how long has someone been on the phone, etc. While jobs where complex work or problem solving is involved have much less of a tendency. ING, well-known bank, has done away with the controlling method for remote workers in their call centers. They saw that this gave the call center staff a greater sense of responsibility, resulting in happier employees without you checking on them all the time. Trust is therefore the most important pillar of remote working. When you give your team trust, you create a safe environment that benefits your whole team. By giving trust, you get responsibility. You re-up what you saw. Another big advantage of managing with trust, it makes you more efficient and flexible. You can switch much quicker in situations if you trust your employees to do the job themselves. If they are constantly dependent on a manager, there is a greater chance that they will start twiddling their thumbs when the manager is not around. In that case, remote working will achieve exactly what you fear. They will wait for you to give you a task. Create trust, even if there are common rules that must be followed by everyone in the same way. It is important to remain flexible. Pay more attention to your employees. Every employee has a right to his private life and to times when he cannot be available. The more suspicious you are, the less motivated your team will be. Distrust is therefore one of the biggest stumbling blocks of remote working. Steering by trust means concretely mapping out what the competencies and the talents are of each person, both technical and behavioral, and those that are crucial for remote working. We have already discussed this in the first video, so you should already have a good overview of your people's competencies. Gallup has also done some research on this. People who use their strengths every day are 7.8% more productive. When people focus on using their talents, they are 6 times more likely to feel connected to the organization. Teams whose individual members are focused on their strengths are 12.5% more productive than average. Teams with high levels of commitment experience 21% higher productivity, 37% lower absenteeism, and 10% higher customer satisfaction. The behavior of the immediate manager has an influence of about 70% on the bond that employees feel with the organization. I strongly believe in the personalization of work, a framework in which job content is determined by someone's unique talents. Instead of people adapting to the job, the strengths and the talents of the employees are taken as a starting point. Job crafting, in other words, we mold our own job and our employee benefits from it. Every career consists of customized work. Maybe it is also the opportunity now that you're going to work more remotely to think about this too. Maybe we should also question the roles and responsibilities. Perhaps we should give employees new responsibilities at a distance. Employees feel stronger when they are given additional new responsibilities, such as taking on leadership roles, because managers were overloaded with extra work to lead new initiatives, for example, or supervising colleagues because of their expertise or experience with remote working. These new responsibilities gave employees confidence and the chance to get to know other colleagues better, which made them feel involved in the success of the team. Value differences. Each team member is different and makes a unique contribution to the team. Explore together the value they bring to the team and how individual qualities can be better utilized. This also ensures that colleagues know how to find each other better when they encounter problems. Your behavior has the greatest influence on the engagement, the connectedness of your employees. This in itself is decisive for achieving the objectives. When times are hard, leadership makes the biggest difference. We'll come back to leadership styles later, but I'd like to make a pit stop here anyway to feed your thinking. You can read excellent managers work on strengths basis uh, in my blog articles about leadership. As a leader, you especially need to create the conditions, the framework in which the strengths of your employees are addressed and further developed. This creates a higher level of commitment, a team dynamic that leads to better performance. Talent is the basis for success, is the starting point. Excellent managers are aware of their own talents and take their responsibility to develop them further. They understand and value the unique talents and strengths of each team member. They identify tasks and activities that each team member can do best. They help their employees to understand, appreciate, and invest in their talents. They respond to the needs of their team members to flourish. Excellent managers are focused on engagement, connection between people and the organization. They pay authentic attention to each team member, helping each to develop and grow in his role. They build a culture in the team that is about cooperation and partnership. They focus on the involvement of each team member and ensure sufficient support from the systems. The things you need for your work must be there. Are focused on achieving the intended deliverables. They set clear performance goals and expectations. They measure progress and outcomes. They provide feedback and direction to employees and teams, empowering them to make decisions and take actions. The 12 engagement elements are: 1. I know what is expected of me at work. 2. I have the materials and tools I need to do my job correctly. 3. At work, I have the opportunity every day to do what I do best. 4. In the past 7 days, I've received praise or recognition for doing a good job. 5. I feel my supervisor or someone at work cares about me as a person. 6. There is someone at work who encourages my development. Number 7. I have the impression that my opinion is taken into account at work. Number 8. The mission or objective my company makes me feel that my work is important. Number 9. My colleagues are committed to deliver quality work. Number 10. I have a best friend at work. Number 11. In the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. Number 12. In the past year, I've had the opportunity to learn and grow at work. So make sure everyone is a knowledge expert in something. By doing this, you will ensure that you have several points of contact in the team and that you will direct people with questions to the knowledge expert and not to you. These knowledge experts become single point of contacts, SPOCs, for this team. Pay genuine attention to each other. Tell each other what you are doing and what is on your mind, also on a personal level. After all, people bring their whole selves to work. At a distance, we need to build a community, a kind of spider web where everyone is connected to everyone and we break the isolation. There must be clarity about what our priorities are. The division of work and roles must be clear so that there is no duplication of work or work that everyone thinks the other person is going to do. Who does what must also be visible by using collaboration tools, project management tools or planning tools, for example. I will come back to this later. So clarity, togetherness, visibility, and transparency, openness are key words. Ensure and transparency. Complete transparency is one of the success rules of remote working. The more transparent you are about what you are working on, the more likely it is that someone will say, hey, that's interesting, and there is something that I can contribute. Offer room for more perspectives. Innovation thrives on different perspectives and experiences. So share who is working on what, how time is spent, what resources are used when you are at work and when you are not. The social control that used to be there because we are all in the same office will disappear. But people are people and people need control. Some need control too. Are you going to be there for 2 hours this afternoon? Well, if we have included that in our team charter, you can, but share it if you're not available or reachable for the next 2 hours. Work with open documents, collaboration tools to which everyone has access and make everything transparent. This creates mutual trust and encourages taking ownership, not only for transparency, but also for meaning. It is important that you make clear how the work of your team contributes to the goals and business strategy. An employee who has a sense of purpose is motivated, and a motivated employee takes ownership and responsibility and is prepared to go the extra mile. Someone who feels that what he or is doing has no meaning for others, is not making a contribution, will slowly but surely become demotivated, and this is not immediately apparent from a distance. Building a good relationship with our employees is an essential aspect of cooperation. But when teams work remotely, working together takes more effort and trust is not automatic. By working together in a physical office, we can see and hear each other and stay informed through proximity. If we don't have those daily meetings, we have to actively inform each other about the work we have done. What is the digital version of management by walking around? Well, it's management by working out loud. So be open and honest. Also, or especially when something is not going well or when mistakes have been made. Don't make empty promises and stick to agreements. Tackle challenges together. Is something not going well? Is the team facing a challenge or is there a conflict? Then find a solution together. By involving our teammates, you create trust and connection. We do this together. What tools do we need to do our job, to work effectively as a distance? Like I'm thinking of an agenda or OneNote or people or procedures or systems or templates or checklists or budgets or training. Give your teams their own resources and approach that, choose an approach that fits the company culture. Be open and honest about it, as well as do some risk analysis about it. What are the risks that we are running? What if certain team members do not follow certain agreements? What if tomorrow people fall sick? What if we have no customers? What if we have no resources anymore? So also map out and think about all the risks, the potential risk, the future risks that we might come across. So to summarize that first position, that steer position, where we already started to talk about in the first video. So if we summarize, what are the 8 steps that we need to kind of map out, that we need to kind of think about as a leader to make sure that we are steering, guiding, managing our teams at a distance? First of all, what is the vision and corporate culture? What are the values and the ethics? Secondly, what are the goals, individual and team objectives? What are the team norms? What framework has been set? What are the competencies, the talents of each person? Which knowledge domains are present in the team? What are our priorities? What is the division of work and roles? What resources and tools do we need to do our job, or should I hand out to my team? And what are the risks, especially in the long term? Remember, this is a co-creative process between the manager and the team. You have to make sure it happens, which does not mean that you're going to fill it out all on your own in your ivory tower. On the contrary, brainstorm together, involve them, be open, be transparent. Everything falls or stands with this first position, this steering position. If as a leader you do not sufficiently abdicate your managerial role and do not respect some team responsibilities, team members become resentful when held responsible for problems beyond their control and feel much more frustration or disillusionment. So in the second position, the manager has to let go and trust that all the steps of the first position, of the planned position, are sufficient to let the autonomous worker do it on his own, execute it from a distance. The responsibility for implementing the plan therefore lies entirely with the employee. The employee must be given the space, the freedom to determine how they are going to achieve the agreed result within the set framework. So don't tell them how to do it. Once the employee has carried out the assignment, a check must be made. And now comes a very important question, a crucial question in which we make a difference between leading face to face and leading at a distance. Where do we place the control moment? In other words, who carries out the first check? The manager or the employee? What do you think? And I'm talking about the first check. At a distance, the employee must be able to control himself, to check himself. That means that an employee must be given all the means to do so. Now, let me give you an example. Suppose you manage a maintenance team. You've worked out all the steps of position 1 and communicated them to your employees. And John is one of your maintenance staff. He knows the vision, the values, the company culture. He has a clear picture of his competencies, his talents. He knows the team agreements and has accepted the assignment to clean my office, Sabine's office, for which he also has all the tools to do so successfully. When John has finished cleaning the office, he needs now to be able to check himself before moving on to the next office or the next task. To do this, he also needs access to these means of control. Now, which control tool could John use to control himself? What could we give him? Most of us will now probably think of a checklist. When John goes through that checklist, he may find, for example, that he had forgotten to turn off the light when he went outside. This allows him to correct himself. As a manager, it is also not the intention that you steer blindly. Employees also expect to be recognized, to be appreciated for their efforts. After the first check that the employee has carried out, whereby he must be given access to all the data in order to check himself, it is best to enter into dialogue here. For example, John can tell you that he finds it difficult to switch off the light and sometimes forgets to do so. We can then look for solutions together in a co-creative manner, such as placing sensors so that this is no longer part of the maintenance task. This brings us to the third position in our plan, do, check, act, namely the coach or check position, where the manager is again in charge or has the responsibility. As a leader of your remote team, you're responsible for ensuring that your people are deployed in the right way, so that they have room to grow, Reward good behavior by letting people see that they're doing well and have the opportunity to achieve something themselves through their efforts. Here too, we have various instruments at our disposal, such as one-on-one or team consultation, or reporting, or baseline measurements, 360-degree surveys. You can also inform yourself or get some input from other managers. So build a peer network so that you pick up signals about what's going well and what's perhaps needs addressing. You may contact or come into contact with other managers who can give you valuable input. Building remote multi-level communities is important because it makes our work easier. The more connection we have with each other at all levels, helping each other and taking joint or shared responsibility, the more we build a supported corporate culture. Islands operating separately and working remotely are more likely to create inter-conflict in the long term. You can also set up job rotation or task rotation, internal audits, up to including mystery spot checks. All these tools need to be agreed upon with each other. In step one, so in the steering part, when we plan everything, so that it does not damage the trust because you suddenly, out of the blue, perform a spot check. I have to expect this as an employee. And of course, there are other tools. These are just examples to get your thinking going. This will give us additional insights, allowing us to make adjustments, optimize our agreements, and all of the other elements that are part of that first position, that plan phase, that steering position. So that brings us to the fourth position of the Plan, Do, Check, Act, optimize, which is again the responsibility of the employee. The implementation of these additional actions again lies entirely with the employee and should be left entirely to the discretion of the manager. In this way, you also ensure that there is involvement and that people think along, that they remain creative and above all are motivated. It may seem a bit overwhelming at first, but remember that improving team performance is an ongoing process. So give yourself and your team time and try out step by step which ways and tools contribute to motivation, efficiency, and effectiveness in your situation. How do you determine how much control or freedom to give to your employees? This is not a simple question, but it's a very crucial one. Answering this question correctly will also help you determine the quote-unquote right leadership style, which we will address in the next video. For example, it is not recommended for employees who have little knowledge and are not motivated. The answer to this question has also several angles. In the first instance, start from the different personalities, and you gained already quite a lot of knowledge based on the insights model in the first video. Each color has different needs and pitfalls. For example, blue personalities benefit more from clear guidelines and clear framework. If you give these employees too much freedom, they feel lost. They get stressed and productivity drops. So give them more frequent and targeted feedback, for example. Make tasks clearer or simpler, provide more framework, more structure. You will find more clarification in the two overviews of insights. How do you meet the needs of the insights color to stay engaged and productive? And how do you deal with the loss of structure and routines of your familiar workplace? Output-driven work has no secrets anymore for you. Think about building a house brick by brick. Seems like a lot to put in place. If you start with one thing, you set the process in motion. Do not expect it all to be sorted out in 1, 2, 3. If you have yet to start everything that you discovered now that is part of output driven working, start by mapping out your vision and ask your team to make a list by the next team meeting of what agreements are needed to work together constructively. It's about co-creation, so get your team working on all these points. Your role is to make it happen, not to do it all. Think about it. Delegate as much as possible so that they get involved and you move forward faster. As icing on the cake, I'd like to invite you to watch the video Leaders versus Managers. It is already a nod to the next video where we start from leadership styles. Be sure to fill in the leadership indicator first, which will give you insight into your natural leadership style.